I want to say to anyone who maybe doesn't have BDD and you're a loved one or a friend or a family member, or maybe just somebody that's interested in the disorder, please remember it's not a vain thing. Please don't diminish the disorder to something that small, because we already with BDD feel so much shame and guilt, and our lives have been completely wrecked, and to have it diminished to vanity is so difficult because it brings on that stigma. Remember, there's something going on in our heads that have us completely feel inferior because of our appearance to others, and we almost feel like we were like born defective. And so the treatment was really about healing that and loving yourself and putting yourself back up and then rebuilding myself to the person I always wanted to be. I'll never say BDD itself is what made me this strong of a person, but fighting BDD and overcoming that has built and given me a strength that I never would have had. I've been able to take that strength and run with it and be successful in other areas of my life, as well as learn how to deal with setbacks. So remind yourself that overcoming this, one good thing that will come out of it is you'll start to have a new appreciation of life and a new strength you may have not had prior to it. One other thing is social media is not the enemy. It can be used for great. I mean, you can use social media to reach people struggling with BDD and other mental disorders that never would have felt accepted because maybe they don't have a family that understands or treatment around their area. So social media can be this beautiful thing of sharing education and information and connecting people. Unfortunately, with BDD at times, it can become negative. We see so many altering of photos and we try to compete with things that the person themselves doesn't even look like. So it's reminding yourself that on social media, it's used for good. Seek that out. Seek people in recovery and opening up stories about their mental health and information. And the comparing yourself, step away from that. Remember, you are seeing people's highlight reel. You're not seeing their behind the scenes. So when you see a picture on Instagram, that's their final picture that they've spent a lot of time on. And they're not posting when they first wake up or they're struggling or if they're crying or having a bad mental health day. And then lastly, remember with BDD, it always has us compare up. We never walk around and look at people in worse situations or that we subjectively don't think are as attractive and say, wow, I'm way better than them. It's always finding the people that make us feel inferior and then comparing and competing with that to a point that we can never reach that. And that keeps us stuck in the disorder, and that's why we do it. So comparing yourself is never helpful. It completely steals all of your excitement and your happiness. So remind yourself that you're on your own path. Follow that path, and regardless of what everybody else is doing, where you're at in your time is where you're meant to be. Meet yourself where you're at and move forward, and don't allow yourself to look at other lanes. One of my favorite quotes is chase the dream, not the competition, and I used that in BDD treatment. I stopped comparing myself to peers in high school that had gone on to get married and had amazing jobs and were living their best life, and I just met myself. What is my dream? It's to get back and to help people and be good. And I followed that. I started to recognize that instead of looking at everybody else's lane, I started only focusing on my own recovery. And when I started looking at my own life and following my values and goals instead of concerning myself with comparison, I got my excitement and happiness back. And once I really got to a point where I focused on what I wanted to achieve and my goals, I started to feel really good and realizing that I'm in my own path. Follow my own path. It's not about comparing myself with others. It's about challenging myself to be greater.